Touchdown, Alabama, let's get it.
The process, no one can stop this. Hottest show in the streets, I bet you can't top this. Recruiting news and interviews, just sit back and watch this.
Recruiting news and interviews, just sit back and watch this.
The process.
Hey everyone, welcome back into The Process, Crimson Tide Recruiting. I'm your host, Justin Smith, the scouting and recruiting analyst for Touchdown Alabama. Thank you guys so much for joining me today on our YouTube page. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Subscribers, hit the notification bell, be notified when we drop content on our YouTube page. I'm here each week to break down the latest in Crimson Tide football recruiting news. Also, be sure to hit us up at 205-984-3222. Again, that's 205-984-3222. The number will be located on the screen throughout the duration of today's show. You call that number, leave your recruiting question via voicemail, and your question could be answered on the future on The Process on our YouTube page. Of course, so be sure to hit us up on that number. Today, I want to recap the Crimson Tide's humongous recruiting weekend, talk about some of the guys who picked up an offer from the Crimson Tide, and also talk about Alabama making some moves for a couple of 2023 prospects as well on today's show. And I'll also discuss some emerging wide receiver targets for the University of Alabama in this 2023 recruiting class. I wouldn't say these are their top targets, but these are some guys who I feel are emerging to be some of the top targets in the future because recruiting is so fluent and it is very early in the 2023 recruiting class, as the Crimson Tide only have 2 verbal commitments at the moment. But I want to talk about some emerging wide receiver targets for Alabama on this episode of The Process. But before I get an opportunity to break down those wideouts, I do want to talk about those recruiting updates that I discussed earlier that come from this weekend. We're going to start things with Bryce Thornton, a 2023 defensive back out of Milton High School in Milton, Georgia. Recently picked up an offer from the Crimson Tide, and he told me that offer from Alabama, which came from Nick Saban, changes his recruitment a lot. He's actually a Georgia legacy. His dad played at the University of Georgia in the past, so he has some ties to the Georgia football program, and the Bulldogs were the first program to offer Thornton as well. But the Crimson Tide joined his recruitment on Saturday. The Crimson Tide's head coach Nick Saban spoke highly of his ball skills, said that he liked his versatility and also liked the aggressiveness that he played with when he made tackles. So the Crimson Tide are in the mix for Thornton at the moment. He says he wants to get out to a couple of more schools in the spring and make a top school list after that. But at the moment, Alabama is in a good position with them. We will see how that impacts his recruitment moving forward with that offer changing his recruitment, which he said. So it'll be interesting to see how the Crimson Tide go about recruiting Bryce Thornton in the future. But speaking of 2023 targets for the Crimson Tide who already had offers and who were taking unofficial visits to Alabama on Saturday, McElderry out of Anniston High School in Anniston, Alabama. We have talked about the Georgia commit for I think a lot over the last couple of weeks. We even had him on our debut Madden series on our YouTube page. Be sure to check out that first episode. But he was on the campus of the University of Alabama last weekend, and he told me that he felt wanted by Nick Saban. He felt that the Crimson Tide's coaching staff really wanted him in this 2023 recruiting class. In his own words, he said that Nick Saban made me feel like Alabama wanted me really bad during this visit. So the Crimson Tide are still putting the full court press on the Anniston product. We will continue to monitor his recruitment. He is expected to take a visit to the University of Georgia in the next couple of weeks. He will also take a visit to Tennessee. So he is keeping his recruitment open, keeping everything fluent, making sure that he enjoys his recruitment to the fullest. But the Crimson Tide are still putting on that full court press for McElderry, a 2023 offensive lineman at Anniston High School in Anniston, Alabama. Speaking of the 2023 recruiting class and new offers, again, the Tide did offer a new running back, another guy out of Georgia, a prospect with a lot of speed. I think over the last couple of recruiting cycles, we have seen guys at the running back position and at the wide receiver position have a lot of speed, and that speed is usually correlated with their experience on the track. And this is another track guy. He has a PR of 10.75 in the 100-meter dash. He also has a respectable time in the 200-meter dash as well at 5'10" and 195 pounds. He's a guy who has a lot of speed. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. Nick Saban talked about his versatility. He feels feels that he can be a threat at different positions on the offensive side of the football. Alabama offered him, but his recruitment has not really taken off yet. He told me that with this Alabama offer in hand, that he feels that everybody in the nation is going to try to come after him now that the Crimson Tide have actually offered him. And now that the Tide have offered him, he said that he feels they are at the top of his recruitment. So I think he's going to be a guy you want to keep your eyes on now that he has that offer. Again, he's Dantavious Brooks out of Washington County High School in Georgia, a guy who picked up an offer from the Tide and looks as if his recruitment is going to surge in the future. When you take a look at his film, there's a lot to like. Of course, that speed that Nick Saban talked about, he has great acceleration, a guy who also can be a threat in the special teams game in terms of returning kicks and punts. So Dantavious Brooks is a guy to keep your eyes on, I feel, in this 2023 recruiting class at the running back position. We broke down the Crimson Tide's running back targets at a couple episodes back on the process, so you can add Dantavious Brooks and Caleb Hicks, who's on the campus of the University of Alabama last weekend, to the list of guys who the Crimson Tide are targeting at the running back position in the 2023 recruiting class. The Tide also offered another running back, and this guy is actually a 2024 prospect in Daniel Hill out of Meridian High School in Meridian, Mississippi. A bigger running back at 6'2" and approximately 225 pounds. A physical running back prospect who I really like. Just taking a look at his film, I feel that he can do a little bit of everything. He's shown the ability to catch the football out of the backfield. He's a tough runner. The first guy who hits him is not going to take him down. Arm tackles are not going to work. He breaks through tackles of guys who could possibly get him down. Nice still form, great speed, a lot of explosiveness. Nick Saban really liked his film, which is why the Tide offered him. He said he grew up an Alabama fan actually, so he's going to be a 2024 running back to keep your eyes on. And just looking at a lot of recruiting sites, not really having their full 2024 recruiting ranking set yet, I think this is a guy who's going to be challenging for a 5-star rating in the future. So Daniel Hill out of Meridian High School in Meridian, Mississippi is the guy to keep your eyes on. Has more than 10 offers at the moment, with the Crimson Tide joining programs like Texas and also other programs in the SEC who have already offered Daniel Hill, like Mississippi State. I know that those in-state programs are going to want to keep this talented running back inside the state in the future. So Daniel Hill is a guy I really like. Just taking a look at his film, it's easy to see why he picked up an offer from the Crimson Tide on Saturday. But speaking of other 2024 prospects who are in Tuscaloosa, Ellis Robinson, who's actually going to attend IMG Academy for his junior season, was on the campus, and he's originally from New Haven, Connecticut, which is the same town that the Crimson Tide's freshman offensive lineman Tyler Booker is from. And of course, Booker played at IMG Academy during his junior and senior season as well. So Ellis Robinson is following in the footsteps of Tyler Booker, a guy who he calls his older brother. He said that they played Pop Warner together, and also talked about the fact that they live basically right around the corner from each other in New Haven, Connecticut. But just taking a look at what Ellis Robinson brings to the table, he's projected to be one of the top defensive backs in the 2024 recruiting class. I remember when he picked up an offer from the Crimson Tide, and just looking at his film, I thought he was a 2023 prospect, just the amount of experience that he played with. But he's a 2024 guy, like I said, projected to be one of the top overall defensive backs in that class. He told me that he felt at home in Tuscaloosa. He said it was the best visit that he had taken so far. He said it was the first time that he actually got back to Tuscaloosa since he was 12 years old. He counted Alabama several times during his childhood. So the Crimson Tide were able to make the 2024 defensive backfield right at home in Tuscaloosa on Saturday. He also got an opportunity to catch up with Booker and spend some time around Booker, with Booker already being enrolled at the University of Alabama, set to start spring practice with Alabama this week. So I'm pretty sure that was an exciting time for both Robinson and Booker, with both of them trying to put New Haven, Connecticut on the map, like Ellis Robinson told me. But now we're going to turn our attention to those wide receiver targets who I feel are emerging for the Crimson Tide in this 2023 recruiting class. Again, I would say these are not their, I wouldn't say these are their top targets. I feel that these are some of them. I think these are some guys to know at the moment. Again, they're still offering guys, they're still building relationship with guys, but I think these are some interesting prospects to keep your eyes on. And the first guy we're going to talk about is Cardinal Tate, a 5-star wide receiver out of IMG Academy. I feel that Alabama offered him a little bit late. A lot of other programs had already put offers on the table by the time the Crimson Tide recently picked decided to put an offer on the table for Carnell Tate. So I think it will be really helpful if Alabama can get Tate on campus. He's really an extraordinary athlete at that wide receiver position. Great speed, great size, can make some acrobatic catches, good route running ability. I think he's really dangerous with the football in his hand. So I think it's going to be really important that Alabama gets him on campus sometime in the spring and in the summer. So Carnell Tate is a guy to keep your eyes on. Brandon Ennis, a 5-star wide receiver who I've talked about a lot of times over the last couple of episodes of the process as well. He is expected to take an unofficial visit to the University of Alabama on April 8th. I will continue to talk about how important Alabama's wide receiver coach Harmon Wiggins and the Crimson Tide's defensive back coach Ellis Robinson will be in the Alabama's push for Brandon Ennis in this 2023 recruiting class. So we'll get an opportunity to gauge where Alabama stands in his recruitment after the Tide get him on campus on April 8th. Of course, he's from American Heritage High School. Alabama has a lot of success at that school. We'll see what impact that has on Brandon Ennis's decision. And take a look at him. He's another 5-star guy, all-around athlete, played quarterback and wide receiver for American Heritage High School. I think that just shines a light and paints a picture of what type of athlete a potential school will get in Brandon Ennis in the future. Another 5-star prospect I think Alabama fans need to pay attention to is Jalen Hale. He was actually on the campus of the University of Alabama last weekend, had an opportunity to catch up with them, and he told me that Alabama was definitely in his top 5. He said that he had a great visit to Tuscaloosa. He really liked the fact that he got an opportunity to speak with Nick Saban. He told me that he felt that Saban was real and he was truthful in what he was telling him during that particular conversation that he had with Saban and his father. So Jalen Hale is a long, I think some places he's listed at about 6'2", but just taking a look at his film, it looks as if he's about 6'3". He's a really lengthy wide receiver, a guy who can catch the football in traffic. He can catch those 50-50 balls down the field. Taking a look at his film, the thing that really stood out to me about his film is the ability to adjust to the football. It is times where his quarterback severely underthrows the football and he works back to it and is able to make a play out of nothing a lot of times. So Jalen Hale is a nice wide receiver as well. The Tide were able to get him back on campus. Like I said, he feels that Alabama is definitely in his top 5. I think he dropped a bigger top school list a couple of months ago, like a top 12 or top 13. Of course, Alabama was in that, but at the moment he feels Alabama is definitely in his top 5 schools after that visit. Another prospect you want to keep your eyes on who was on the campus of the University of Alabama at the wide receiver position is Cole Adams. Like I said, he was on campus last weekend. Adams is a product of Oklahoma. Recently picked up an offer from the Crimson Tide. Another guy with a lot of speed and with a track background. Has a PR of 10.65 in the 100-meter dash. He told me that he is building a great relationship with Alabama's coaching staff, including the Tide's wide receiver coach Harmon Wiggins. He told me that he has a crazy good relationship with multiple members of Alabama's coaching staff. He said his visit was absolutely incredible. Got an opportunity to speak with Nick Saban. He told me that conversation was a great one. He said it felt surreal to actually get an opportunity to get an offer from Alabama and have an opportunity to meet Coach Saban. He said it felt like a dream, and he said that he has a good relationship with Alabama's coaching staff, of course, but he wants to continue building that relationship. He's staying in contact with them. He's going to see where they stand in his recruitment in the future after he gets a chance to basically adjust to everything in his recruitment with it growing at the moment. Alabama offered him recently becoming the 15th program. The programs like Texas A&M, LSU, Mississippi State have offered him recently, and his offer list is up to about 19 offers. So I think his recruitment is a bit more in the earlier stages than some guys. So I think his offer list is going to continue to grow. But Alabama looks to be really interested in the Oklahoma product. Like I said, a speedy, electrifying wide receiver out of Oklahoma as the Crimson Tide tries to pull in another great wide receiver class in this 2023 recruiting cycle. Carmelo English is a guy I would keep my eyes on as well. He's actually an in-state prospect. We talked a lot about the state of Alabama in this 2023 recruiting class because the state is flooded with talent. I know a lot of you hear about those talented defensive linemen. Yeah, you have the Peter Woods, you have the James Smith, you have the Keldrick Falks, you have all of those top tier defensive linemen, but but you also have some top tier offensive prospects. Now, I didn't mean to say offensive lineman, but offensive prospects. And Carmelo English is one of those guys at 6'2". I think he's a great route runner. Just taking a look at some of these guys, I think his route running matches up with a lot of these guys who we have talked about already. He has in his top 8 at the moment. He visited during the football season, of course, so the Crimson Tide are in a good position with Carmelo English, in my opinion. I think he's one of those in-state guys, so he's going to visit a lot of other schools outside the state, because you want to enjoy your recruitment with them being in-state product. I'm pretty sure he's really familiar with some of those in-state programs like Alabama and Auburn, so I'm pretty sure he wants to enjoy his recruitment, get out a little bit more. But he's a guy to keep your eyes on and just keep him in the back of your mind as well. Bryson Rogers is the guy who we are going to wrap up today's show with. He was on the campus of University of Alabama last weekend as well, along with Jalen Hale and Cole Adams. Looking at Bryson Rogers, standing at 6'2" and weighing 175 pounds. He's also a great route runner. Nick Saban visited his school in Florida when he was out on the recruiting trail a couple of months ago, visiting different schools. So Alabama really seems to be interested in Bryson Rogers. Just taking a look at some of the guys who I've talked about at the wide receiver position who Alabama is targeting in this 2023 recruiting class. Just taking a look back at the schools that Rogers has visited. Alabama is one of the top schools he has been to, so I think Alabama is really interested in him, and I think that feeling is mutual at the moment. So I think Alabama is in a really good position with Bryson Rogers. He told me that visit he took last weekend to Alabama was an absolutely good one. I'm still trying to work to get a full interview with him, which will be on touchdownalabama.com soon. A lot of guys who I've talked about on today's show, you guys can read their interviews over at touchdownalabama.com while you are here. But that will do it for today's show. Thank you guys so much for joining me on the process. Be sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Subscribers, hit that notification bell. Be notified when we drop content on our YouTube page. Then head over to touchdownalabama.com. Pick up your subscription today. With that subscription, you get the opportunity to read our in-depth scouting reports on each Tide committee, each recruiting class, all of our subscriber only content, and get an opportunity to get your hands on our yearly print magazine issue. After that, head to the Google Play Store if you have an Android device, to the Apple App Store if you have an Apple device, to download the Touchdown Alabama app. With that app, breaking news notification will be sent to your mobile device by the staff here at Touchdown Alabama. As always, I am Justin Smith, the scouting and recruiting analyst for Touchdown Alabama.
Process.